Hello students, my name is Naveen and I welcome you all to this one another lecture on the preparation for the PRAGATII exam for our international community students. Now in this session, we are going to talk about a very important segment which comes under verbal ability, the English part, which is analogies. Now let's get into the session and understand what analogies are and how do we go about defining this particular topic and solving the same. All right, so analogies. So an analogy can be basically a similarity or a comparison between two things, typically for a purpose of explanation or clarification. What this entire topic does is where you'd be given a pair of words where you need to establish a similarity or a comparison between the two words. Now, in order to read these kind of questions, you need to understand the format for the same. Now, here are certain symbols that one should be aware of. To begin with, you would see an a colon symbol. When you have a single colon, we read it as is to. We read it as is to. Whereas if you have two colons back to back, we use it as. Okay. For example, when you need to find the second pair that has some relationship as a complete pair. Now, for example, you have a question over here, which is ice is too cold as steel is to dash. I repeat, ice is too cold as steel is to dash. Now, there you will have four options given to you, which is hard, loud, fresh, and small. Now, how do we go about finding an answer of this? Now, here, if you look at this particular example, ice is too cold. Ice is too cold. Now, the characteristics of ice is to be cold. Okay, and ice is supposed to be cold. Now, what comparison can we make with the right hand side of the question, which is steel is to dash? Steel is to dash. Can we have steel is to hard? Yes, the characteristics of steel is to be hard. Can we have steel is to loud? Steel as to fresh? Or steel is to small? Right? So if you clearly observe, you need to compare the comparison given to you from both end of the questions. One, on the left hand side, if you see ice is to cold, and on your right hand side, you have a question steel is to dash, where you need to fill in that blank based on the given options given to you below. Now, the right answer for this one is steel is too hard, because the characteristics of a steel is to be hard, whereas ice is supposed to be cold and steel is supposed to be hard. Therefore, option A becomes the right answer over here. Moving on to the next segment. Okay, let's understand this. Now, try and determine the relationship between the first pair of words. For example, you will read this just as you read a verbal analogy question, which is odometer is to mileage as compass is to dash. Odometer is to mileage as compass is to dash. And you have the following options: speed, hiking, needle, and direction. So an odometer is an instrument used to measure mileage. Therefore, what is the use of a compass? Do we use a compass to measure speed, hiking, needle, or direction? I'm sure you get the hint over here, right? That the compass is used to measure or determine the direction. Therefore, an odometer is an instrument used to measure mileage, and a compass is an instrument used to determine direction. Therefore, option D becomes the right answer, and option A, B, and C are incorrect. Let's look at some types of analogies. The first one is a part to whole. The branch is a part of a tree. In the same way, on the right hand side, arm is a part of what? The arm is a part of what? Is it a part of a man, a fruit, honey, bowl, or apple? So if you use the logic of part to whole, you will easily figure out that the answer is A, man. Just like branch is a part of a tree, arms are a part of man. Arm is the part of a man. Arms are nothing but your hands, right? The arms that we use. So this is the first kind of analogy that you might expect to see in your examinations, which is of the following combination, part to whole. Now let's get into the second important component, the second type of analogy, which is part to part. part to part. Now you can see in your question, fruit is to pair as dash. Fruit is to pair as dash. And the possible answers given to you is planet is to Mars, fruitful is to ineffective, bee is to honey, cereal is to bowl, and apple is to orchard. Fruit is to pair as dash. Now, what would be the right answer for this particular question? Let's understand step by step. If you look at over here, a pear is an example of a fruit. So we need to pick out another answer choice, where the first word is a category and the second word is an item that falls into the category. Okay, while fruitful is to ineffective may look like a good answer, but it uses the word fruitful. But we need to understand that these two combinations are not going with each other. Fruitful is to ineffective. Okay, therefore we would need to find out a different answer which should match our question. Okay, therefore fruitful is to ineffective cannot be the correct answer. Similarly, apple is to orchard may also sound like a good answer because fruit is to pear, it mentions fruit. However, apple is to orchard represents an item and a place where it is produced, and not a category and an item in that category. So apple is to orchard is also not correct. However, in this case, the answer is option A, which is planet is to Mars. Planet is to Mars. Mars is an example of a planet, just like a pear is an example of a fruit. So planet is to Mars is the correct answer in this case. Moving on to the next type of analogy, which is example and category. Example and category. If you look at the question, crimson is to red as teal is to dash. Crimson is a shade of red. So in order to solve this analogy, you have to determine a color of which teal is a shade. Of which teal is a shade. So what do you think would be the right answer? A, blue, B, shade, C, pink, D, color, or E, hue. Now we clearly understand by looking at the question that crimson is to red, therefore we need to look at the colors. And there are only two colors mentioned to you in the options given. One is A, blue, and C, pink. But in this case, teal is a bluish green color. A bluish green color. Therefore, blue becomes the right answer for this particular question. The next category that we look at is the cause and effect. The cause and effect category. Now we look at the question, which is Judaism is to religion as socialism is to dash. Judaism is to religion as socialism is to dash. And the possible answers given to you in terms of options are practical, democracy, religious, government, or capitalism. Now, if you look at the question, where you can clearly establish a connection between Judaism and religion, because Judaism is a type of religion. So to solve this analogy, you will have to determine what category does socialism falls in. Well, if you clearly observe, the correct answer in this case is option D, government. Is government, because as socialism is a political system of communal ownership. Socialism is a political system of communal ownership. The answer for this particular question becomes D, government. Moving on to a next important component, where this type is determining meaning from the type of relationship. Determining meaning from type of relationship. For example, a cockatoo is to bird as dash. Cockatoo is to bird as dash. Now here we understand that cockatoo is a type of bird. That is obvious. So what do you think would be the possible answer for this particular analogy? Which among the following options establishes a very close relationship talking about the type and the category that it belongs to? If you look into the following options, you have frog is to amphibian, plant is to animal, whale is to fish, mammal is to dolphin, and sky is to bird. If you look at option A, frog is to amphibian. Yes, frog is a type of amphibian. So that's a possible answer. Plant is to animal is completely out of context because these are completely two different things and we cannot go ahead with that option. Whale is to fish. Whale is to fish might look like a very convincing answer, but we need to keep this into consideration that whale does not comes under, is not counted as a fish, but as a mammal. As a mammal. Therefore, option C also cannot be the answer for this particular question. Option D, mammal is to dolphin, very close enough, we can consider that. And sky is to bird is once again out of context. So frog is to amphibian and mammal is to dolphin. These are the following two options of which the right answer would proceed. Now the relationship between cockatoo and a bird is the type of bird. Likewise, frog is a type of an amphibian. If you look at option D, the choice mammal is to dolphin shares the same relationship as, because dolphin is a type of mammal. But what we need to focus on is the order that it is arranged. The order that it is arranged. Now here cockatoo is a type of bird. Dolphin is a type of mammal. But here the option given to you is mammal is a type of dolphin. That's incorrect. Therefore, although that could have been a right answer, but due to incorrect ordering, option D needs to be neglected. Okay, therefore, the only answer that we can come very close to is frog is to amphibian as cockatoo is to bird. Cockatoo is to bird as frog is to amphibian. So this type of analogy helps you in determining meaning from the type of relationship. I hope you understood this question, and if you have any questions, you can definitely post it down under the comment section on YouTube. We would definitely come and answer those questions. And in case any detailed explanation is required in a particular topic, we will also take efforts to create a video for the same. Therefore, do let us know your comments and any questions if you have any in the YouTube comment section. Moving on with next question. Now this question talks about eliminating any pair in your answer choices that don't have the same relationship. So here we are using the technique, as I mentioned, is elimination technique. A cobbler makes and repairs shoes. So which among the following options does the same thing? So here a cobbler makes and repairs shoes. In the same way, a contractor builds and repairs buildings. A contractor builds and repairs buildings. Therefore, option B is the right answer for this particular question. So question number 1. After is to before as, and you need to figure out the next right hand side of the question. So on your left hand side, you have after is to before as from the following options. Which among them do you think is correct? Firstly is to secondly, future is to past, contemporary is to historic, and successor is to predecessor. If you closely observe, after basically means succeeding or taking over something, and before basically means preceding or previous or prior to something. Similarly, successor is the one that comes after something, while predecessor comes before something. Therefore, the closest relation that we can make out of this question is option D, successor is to predecessor. The successor is to predecessor. Therefore, option D becomes your answer in this case. Now for the second question. The second question we have earthquake is to tsunami as heavy rain is to dash. Earthquake is to tsunami and heavy rain is to dash. So earthquake causes tsunami. Earthquake causes tsunami. What does heavy rain cause? Is it flood, hurricane, miserable, or river? So if you clearly observe, the answer to this particular question is option A. Earthquake causes tsunami and heavy rain causes flood. Therefore, option A is the right answer for this particular question. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our today's session. And I really hope that this session would have been really helpful to you in helping you understand the importance and uses of verbal analogy. So thank you so much and all the best.